Now, fluoride in our drinking water, is it a great way to protect our teeth, or is it actually causing damage to our health? Well, Adrienne Murphy has been researching the issue for Hot Press magazine, and her facts and report is in this month's issue. You're very welcome, Adrienne.
Thank you.
Now, as I said just there earlier on, we've been putting fluoride into the water. The government has been putting fluoride into our water, the state, since the 60s. Why did it start in the beginning, and for what reasons?
It was put into the water to prevent dental caries, dental decay, in the early 1960s, and it's been in our water for 50 years now. I mean, the important thing is that a lot of people don't actually even know that fluoride is in our water. We can't escape it, we're drinking it, it's in our tap water. We are the only country in the EU still doing this. All the other European countries, the only other countries in the EU who are fluoridating the water are Britain. They fluoridate 10% of the population, and Spain fluoridates 10% of its population intensively in the Basque Country. Apart from that, we're the only people, and all the other European countries either never adopted it or else rejected it on scientific and ethical grounds. For example, in the Netherlands in the early 1970s, they did have a fluoridation policy, and there was Dr. Hans Muhlenberg was the scientist who started seeing adverse health effects in the population. For example, he was seeing a doubling of Down syndrome in fluoridated cities. Now that's very, very serious. Ireland also has double the rate of Down syndrome to Britain and our non-fluoridated neighbours. I could go on and on. But Hans Muhlenberg in the early 70s, he set up a team of independent scientists to look at the adverse health effects of fluoride, and they concluded that it was actually a low-level poisoning of the population. Okay, which are very, very strong terms. So his report, the response to his report was an immediate cessation of water fluoridation.
Yeah. Okay. Yvonne, what are the government here saying, and what are they doing if this is all happening in other countries?
I mean, I find all that terrifying. I mean, and it does make interesting reading, but also have to look to my government. I mean, we vote them in, we trust them, and basically they're reassuring us that that it kept at optimal levels, that there's no reason for any concern. Indeed, there was the Forum on Fluoridation back in 2002, out of which the Irish expert body on fluoridation and health emerged, and they're keeping an ongoing review of scientific research and ongoing developments. Now
they say that none of these facts basically to Down syndrome. I read your facts in your report, and you also say that it's linked to issues with thyroid, underactive and overactive thyroid. But the government here say, and the representative bodies say, that that is not the case in their view.
Exactly. They're very confident insofar as that they do allude to the fact that there can be limitless testing, that they are quite confident with the research that they're making, and it's all done by peer review, and they feel confident in going forward with it. I mean, the thing I know what you're saying about Europe coming back so much, but America hasn't, and New Zealand hasn't, and I mean, lots of these lovely studies that are alluded to in the report are coming out of America, and yet America still maintains it.
Yeah, so, Adrienne, you are a journalist and you're impartial, and we should say this. You took this on, you started investigating this yourself as a journalist, so you were not campaigning for the end of fluoridation as a campaigner. This is research, this is your view after research, extensive research.
The more I researched this area, I've been hearing about this for years, and probably like a lot of people, I sort of rejected it. It's a horrible thing to think about, that something that you need in order to live is not, may be toxic. And also there's this whole thing of the sci-fi idea that there's chemicals in the water, they're dosing us with mass medication. That's something that I've resisted, but I have been studying it. The more I study it, and I'm not just in contact, I'm in contact with Declan Waugh, who's the Irish whistleblowing scientist, who's written 2 very long reports on this, very well referenced, using peer-reviewed journals. His reports are receiving international attention at the moment, and his reports are being used by the huge numbers of people in the fluoridated countries, New Zealand, Australia, the States, Canada, to shut down their fluoridation. But not am I only in contact with Declan Waugh. Just in the past week I've been in contact with Dr. Kathleen Thiessen, who is a leading world expert on fluoride toxicity. Now she was one member of an American group who are employed by the American EPA in 2006 to study the toxicity of fluoride and its possible adverse effects on human health. Now that's a massive report.
And what does she say? She says we should stop it.
She says absolutely clearly, I can read out a statement she just sent me. She's been writing me personal letters. She says absolutely it is irresponsible to go on any further fluoridating people. The evidence is so strong. There's so much evidence associating fluoride with, let me just name what the associations are with. The NRC report, which she was one of the scientists involved in compiling, that is a very, very serious report. And for the Irish expert body to say that is an irrelevant report, or to in any way to not take on what that report is saying, I don't personally think it's unacceptable.
Is there any actual report on the impact of taking away the fluoridation to Ireland, whatever about any other countries? Is there any actual specific report that would document the impact that if we took it away tomorrow?
There have been. East Germany stopped fluoridating its population, and the Netherlands also stopped fluoridating.
And all their teeth did not fall out.
Their teeth were fine. There was no resulting drop in dental health.
This is what all this research is saying to us, but our own government says it's fine. What do you think? Is this mass medication, or what do you think of it?
Well, I think medication by definition is it is mass medication, I suppose, put simply. Now, I think I can represent the majority of the population who don't know a whole lot about this. I've only learned about this over the last 48 hours, and like Adrienne, the more I learn, the more I'm actually siding with Adrienne. First of all, what is fluoride? Fluoride is a chemical compound made up of metals, non-metals, and organic elements that it does fight tooth decay. It fights the bacteria that links up with sugars, which cause acid, which decays your teeth. And fluoride helps protect
That's only for the first 7 years or something, though, is it?
That's for the first, I think, up to about 8 years of age. Now, like anything else, Panadol, we take Panadol to take away our headaches, but like anything else, too much of anything can be
And that's your view, that you don't believe we should have to have it, that if you want to, as Adrienne says, maybe use a toothpaste with fluoride in it topically, that's enough, thank you very much, I don't want to drink it every day.
Yes, I think not having the option is not, I don't think it's fair. Now, I'm not going to go as far as saying that the government is either poisoning us. I don't think it's the government's fault. I think they're doing what they believe is the best option, either treat it,
but the government are relying on their own, people.
I'm just terrified that, let's say they don't act on this, and so you've got people out there listening to this, and for those who can afford it, they'll go out and they'll buy their bottled waters and their filters, and other people can't afford that. I hate spending money on bottled water personally, and so you'd hate there to be a rich-poor divide. We've enough divisions in the country, and I'd like to be careful in how this subject is discussed, because it's so widespread, and the water is everywhere.
Water is everywhere. Do you drink tap water, Yvonne?
I do, yeah.
Do you come out?
I do drink tap water.
Yeah. But what about you, Adrienne?
I don't drink tap water. From what I know now, I don't drink tap water. Neither I wouldn't let my children drink tap water. I cook with bottled water.
But what about boiling the water?
Boiling water makes no difference. Because it doesn't burn off the fluoride.
It doesn't
boil off the fluoride. It actually increases the concentration of fluoride. Can I just say the medical ethics issue? I'd like to know who is advising the government on the medical ethics of mass medicating us with fluoride.
Apparently an expert body. That's the terminology that kept. That's very vague terminology.
A lot of dentists on that body, are there?
But there's no toxicologists on that body.
Okay.
It's very important that oncologists, pediatricians, toxicologists, we need an independent review. Since that body was formed in the early 2000s, a lot of new evidence has come out. That needs to be looked at independently. The ethics issue, who is advising the government on the ethics of dosing us all with an uncontrolled amount? Babies are drinking way too much of this. Now, the American Dental Association is advising that formula should not be made with fluoridated tap water. And the Irish population is a formula-fed baby population. We need to hear about that.
But I mean, the reality is, I suppose, Adrienne, we do not want to be alarmist, and that is really, really important out there. We do not want to be alarmist. It is not just fluoride that is in our water. I mean, there's an issue we could be discussing here about chlorine in our water and the other purifiers that are in our water as well, that maybe I mightn't personally like to drink. And a lot of people filter their water not for the reasons of fluoride, but for the other
that's true, but the NRC and other scientists, mounting scientific evidence is showing major adverse problems with fluoride.
And they can read all this in Hot Press as well.
Yeah, the current issue. In the current issue of Hot Press, we have actually presented Minister Alex White, who's the minister responsible for fluoridation, with 27 questions. Now, he has very graciously said that he will answer those questions and meet us. And then the issue of Hot Press that's coming out tomorrow has another story on fluoride. I mean, people can really, the fact is that people can actually access the scientific reports themselves on Fluoride Alert.
And make up their own mind.
Yeah, make up their own mind.
Yes. And thank you very much for being with us today. And we'd just like to stress that the government says that the balance of worldwide scientific evidence confirms that water purification does not cause any ill effects and continues to be safe and effective in protecting oral health. Would you like to get that point across?
So they want to say that water fluoridation does not cause any ill effects. I suppose that's what we want to say. Okay, what do you think about fluoride in your water? We are, of course, on Facebook. You can get in touch with us, tweet us at RTE Today, or email us today at rte.ie to text us. Type the word today, followed by your comment, and you can send it to 53555. And I'm sure it's an issue that will be talked about a lot. And you can, of course, as Lois said there, take a look at Hot Press and make up your own mind.
Make up your own mind. No.